Bienvenidos a otro episodio más de Política, Finanzas y más. Primero que nada, antes de empezar, les recuerdo, obviamente el contenido de este programa es independiente a lo que nosotros hacemos en la radio, así que bienvenidos sean ustedes para informarnos el día de hoy. Esta entrevista, este podcast va a ser un poquito diferente. Lo vamos a hacer en inglés y tratar de traducir. Yo sé que la mayoría de la audiencia, entiende el inglés, así que creo que es importante tener aquí a personas que van a representarte. Por eso hoy vamos a conocer al candidato para alcalde de la ciudad de Tyler, Texas, John Nix. Así que, eso lo vamos a hacer en breve. Vaya compartiendo, vaya conectándose con nosotros para informarse. Creo que es muy importante antes de ir a las casillas estar bien informado. Y antes de eso hay que agradecerle a la gente que hace esto posible, la gente que cree en Erik como Casa de Silhouette. 432-661-3591. Próximamente abre aquí en Tyler, Texas, con hidratación por suero, tratamientos de pérdida de peso, entre muchos otros tratamientos, incluyendo las prendas postoperatorias. Si usted se hizo alguna cirugía, ahí van a tener ellos, obviamente, todos esos productos. Le agradecemos a nuestros amigos de Clover. Marianne 318-834-4027 también ayuda a Erik Tarango en esta transmisión, y la gente de Hidalgo Granite, hidalgogranite.com. Si estás buscando granito, remodelaciones, ahí está. Así que bienvenidos, aquí vamos a iniciar esto que llamamos Política, Finanzas y más, y obviamente estamos dentro de las campañas políticas, y de nuevo este no es un anuncio pagado, no es un endorso tampoco, es simplemente conocer al candidato para que usted también lo conozca.
En un mundo donde la política y las finanzas definen tu día a día, aquí encuentras la información clara para tomar mejores decisiones, consejos financieros, temas en tendencia e ideas que impactan tu futuro y el de tu familia. Porque un mejor futuro empieza con la información correcta. Con ustedes, Erik Tarango, presentador de Política, Finanzas y más.
Buenas, bienvenidos a todos. Hoy lo vamos a hacer un poco, como dijo Meño, un poco diferente. Entonces nomás vamos a hablar un poquito en español y nos vamos a cambiar a mi inglés pirata. No se rían porque no soy nacido aquí, entonces se va a notar, pero pues vamos a darle. So everybody, welcome. Let's do this. So, John, it's great to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We had you on the radio yesterday. Well, obviously, we recorded it a couple of days ago, but it was great to have you there. And now we have you here for the similar question, but a little bit longer. It's an hour.
Okay.
And, first, tell us about you for the ones that don't know you. What do you do? Where are you from? What encouraged you to do this? Because, you don't get paid for this, right? Or
no,
do
it's
you?
a volunteer job. That's
volunteer job, right?
Yeah, that's right. Volunteer full-time
So tell us
job.
about yourself.
Yeah, well, I was born in Lubbock and raised in Texas for almost all my life. I spent some time outside of Texas when I went into a ministry, and got to kind of use my construction, serving around the world, rehabbed an orphanage in Moscow, and built shelters after Hurricane Mitch in Honduras, and really traveled around doing service projects for years. And when I retired from the ministry around 21, 22 years old, moved to Tyler. And most of that had to do with the building industry in Tyler. So housing here was growing, but it wasn't as big as Austin. It wasn't as big as Dallas, and hate traffic. So,
what year was that?
Man, it was around 2000, 2001 when I showed up here. And so moved here as a single guy and had a tool belt and a 1983 Oldsmobile and about $1,000 in the bank. And Tyler was just awesome. And started working as a trim carpenter and spent about 10 years working as a trim carpenter. Had my own trim company here, built a few spec houses here and there. And then when the 08-09 financial crash hit and put a lot of us carpenters out of a job, started building investment property. And so that's really what I do now. So I develop land, build investment property. I build residential, duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, and build industrial warehouses.
Okay.
And
kind of like where Amazon, I guess, or
not that big.
Not that big.
I'd love to build an Amazon warehouse, but I built a little bit smaller. We've got a park out on 64 on the east side of town, and we're really what I've done is I've created spaces for startups. So You can come in and rent anything from 1,200 square feet all the way up to 6,000 square feet. We have a storefront. Gotcha. It's nice, manicured place. Looks really good. Lots of security cameras and lights. And so really focusing on startup businesses. So that's kind of what I do. And what brought me here really was housing. And then I was sort of raised being involved in community service as far as my parents taught me how important local and state and national offices were for the way we live and making sure that people had a voice. And so probably 13, 14 years ago, I ran for city council and won and was in city council for years and then rolled off due to term limits. But during that whole time, for the last 18 years, I've been a volunteer at the city. So I've been a continuous volunteer at the city, serving on everything from planning and zoning to half-cent sales tax to construction board of appeals to developers roundtable and, of course, city council. So, and that's really kind of some.
And you did 6 years, right, on the city council?
I did a full 6. I did. It was kind of weird. I did a partial term up front because somebody jumped out in midterm from their seat, and then I actually had to retire halfway through my last term to not go past the 6 years.
So were you elected the first time or no?
I was. I was unopposed the first time. I was unopposed my second run. I was opposed my third. And then I was unopposed my fourth.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that's kind of how it's gone. And now,
is there something in city council that led you to kind of want to run for mayor or?
Yeah, that is a great question. Okay. And the answer is absolutely. I had not planned to run for mayor. There was a short time about 6-7 years ago. I threw my hat in the ring to run for mayor. Some family stuff came up, and my family is absolutely the most important thing other than the Lord. And so I had to kind of bow out. So never actually ran, never was really on the ballot. But here, 6-7 years later, really why I'm here is our roads are falling apart and the funding is flat for our roads. They're not spending any more on the roads while revenue continues to grow.
Right.
And you can see it. I mean, our roads are deteriorating. When I left council, if you called in a pothole, it had asphalt in it within 24 to 48 hours, no matter where it was in the city. And, I was telling you the other day, I had a pothole. There's a little ways away from my house. It got called in April of 2025. And it's still got a little City of Tyler Street sandwich sign over the top of it as early as a couple weeks ago when I drove past it.
What do you think is the problem with that?
It's all priorities. So
what are they doing? Are they doing anything? I guess. I mean, what are they doing?
I think the current council has had a very high priority on parks, and they've spent a lot of money on parks, and the parks are nice, and they're definitely getting better and expanding. They're doing a wildly overpriced and way too much project on the square. Right now, which I'm against and have been very publicly against. I've been the only person voting against it.
Including the court and all that? No, but
not
the courthouse.
I supported the courthouse, and we needed a courthouse. So
the project in the middle, right?
The project on the other side of the square, which is county property. Mm-hmm. It's not city property. And the city is spending $34 million rehabbing that county property and the roads around it. Right. It's just an over the top. And right now, if you talk to any of the business owners like Mucho,
how can that cross between county and city? Because I'm sure all this money comes from local taxes.
It does.
So how can that cross been county property, but the city investing those funds? Is there a loop?
They did an interlocal agreement last mid-year 2025 where the council and the city came together and did an agreement on how they were going to share, authority over the square and who was going to benefit from the work the city did. And it is one of those deals where, I was all for dressing up the square. And I think you could have done something amazing. But, I mean, it's crazy. They're putting underground bathrooms on the square. They've got an $80,000 statue of a squirrel they're putting in on the square.
Why a squirrel? What's the meaning behind it?
No clue. The
squirrel is Shorty the
It's
squirrel,
Shorty the
right?
squirrel.
It's apparently a squirrel that lived on the square and went around and people fed it until it died, and then they buried it on the square. And then that's how Parks and Rec adopted that as a mascot. And they actually removed, quote unquote, the remains.
So supposedly they had an exhumation.
Yes.
And unburied the squirrel before they started construction. There was nothing there. So they had a very public exhumation of a squirrel that
was not there.
Wasn't there.
It was gone.
Which is funny, but I think that just kind of speaks to that whole project and kind of what's going on there. I think they could have dressed it up. I think they could have done something amazing.
That's a lot of money on just a squirrel.
For $8 to $10 million, and I mean amazing, like Walt Disney World amazing. Right?
And that's one thing that I like about John. That he actually works. He's been doing construction for a while, so he knows how it works. Yeah. He knows the actual cost of things that will benefit the city. When he told me about it the other day, I'm like, oh, that's what we need, because that's what he's going to do. So I was
asking questions. Yeah. It really is one of those deals, and it was like, if any of us go and want to get a permit for a job, right? Like there's all these ordinances and everything we have to do. Well, this square is a perfect example of not necessarily living under your own rules, right? Like, so around the square, we have in the city what's called a fire lane width, which is a minimum width they can build any street, right? And that is 26 feet. So when I go out and build a street through my neighborhoods or subdivisions, I can't make it any narrower than 26 feet. That's the rule. And when I'm reading through the plans, before it was voted on, before I voted against it for the downtown square, I find on there all their streets are 24 foot wide. So they're not even fire code width. And when I asked them, hey, did y'all do a variance? Did y'all, approve the fact that y'all aren't going to do the roads as wide? And the two engineers that were in the room, like, looked at each other and they looked back at me, and then they were like, well, we talked about it and it's okay. I was like, okay, well, that's not how this works. Like, if it was me, I'd have to come apply for a variance and you wouldn't have approved it. Yeah. Hey, but here the whole square is. But that kind of stuff is all the way through this set of plans that they did. And I mean, a great example is this. So they're taking Broadway and they're making it 2 lanes, 1 lane north, 1 lane south, all the way down.
Wow.
Starting back here, going all the way through the square to the north. And they're putting 2 roundabouts in the square, which is, I'm sure, going to go great.
Mm-hmm. My wife's looking forward to that roundabout.
City of Tyler knows how to do roundabouts, that's for sure. Yeah. But the cross sections on these streets out here, and this is a little nerdy, and I'm sorry, but I'm a construction guy, but a cross section is how you construct the road. It's how many inches of asphalt, how much inches of sub base, how much inches of stabilization you're going to have to do. Well, these cross sections for these roads, which is going to be 1 lane going north and 1 lane going south, is like an interstate highway cross section, which is basically just very expensive. They're putting way more asphalt in there. So there's just all these little things in there that when you're not watching just add up. And that's really why I'm here. I'm just seeing
Are we expecting a heavy load of traffic through downtown? Or
once you cut it over half, I don't think so, right? Like in an 18-wheeler can't get, those are small roundabouts that are here. So, I mean, you're not going to be able to get through there. Now, I've been told they are making the roundabouts flat enough you can go over them. But once again, like, I think
it's
what's the purpose in that?
18-wheelers to not go through here. I mean,
I think that
might be the
and I don't think many go through anyway, right?
Well,
but there are some
in the morning at 8 o'clock.
Some of them do.
This is a thoroughfare between North and Central Tyler.
But that might encourage people to not even drive through Broadway.
And that is, I think, the goal is to kind of push it around. Which I also think, if you're doing that, like, why didn't you just shut down the square if you're going to just try to choke it off, like, to push it around? So, but that is really, I think it's a symptom of stuff that's going on kind of all over the city, kind of going back to streets citywide where spending's just not increasing on maintenance. And I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but traffic is not going down in this city. More and more people are moving here.
People are moving in. Tyler, it's a great city. It's an amazing city.
I don't think we really planned for the growth that I think Tyler had. No. And especially on this main streets like Broadway, South Broadway especially. I don't think that was very thought out.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up South Broadway. So South Broadway is actually a state road.
Oh, really?
So that is not a city road. And things like Beckham, Old Jacksonville Highway, Loop 323, those are all state roads. So the state's responsible for all the maintenance and construction on those. What the city does control is the city controls the stoplights with TxDOT's permission. But to your point, another thing this council has done is they have turned away a lot of TxDOT funding. Several years ago, TxDOT came to town and said, hey, South Tyler is just going crazy. It's too hard to get around. We want to put an overpass at Old Jacksonville and 323. And they didn't just say, maybe we'll do this. I mean, they brought money and said, this is something that needs to be done. We're going to do it. And this city council said, no, we're not interested.
It's a couple years ago? 4 years?
Yeah, it's 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
All of the other candidates were on the council.
Right, the ones that
the other guys are running. But they turned away this money.
What was the reason for that?
I heard there were some shareholders at that intersection that didn't want it.
Gotcha. I wonder the big one?
Probably the big one. But the reality is our community and our city needed that. Right. And I think that I heard there were some, strong words used and threats from one of those shareholders, like, we'll move people. But the reality is our community needs that for growth. Our community needs that to move around. And we've had the same thing happen at Grande and Broadway, where TxDOT came with some solutions and the shareholders around there said, we're not interested. And the reality is at some point, those decisions need to be supported and done just so this city can continue to grow and move. I mean, the gridlock's crazy. And it's just twice a day and or the entire month of December. But other than that, after, as you know, if you drive around this town, after everybody's gone home from work, traffic's fine, right?
Right.
It really is. We have to deal with those things. But the only thing the city can control in that is really the city roads. So city roads that would be good examples. So Cumberland, Grande, like Earl Campbell.
Okay.
So those are city roads. So really, the city owns a lot of the relievers, like Old Omen Road.
Okay.
And you think about those that can get people off and around. Most of MLK they own. And so things like that have to be focused on because we don't control those state highways. So we have to be spending on expansion. And some great examples is Grande needs to be expanded both directions. And then Cumberland needs to be expanded east at least, if not east and west, to start relieving traffic.
Do you think the vast majority of the people that are in council have more of a personal interest than really the common good of the people? I mean, do these people seek more
I don't know that I
of
would
that
say
opportunity to...
I don't know. I mean, I think everybody has a heart for Tyler. I don't think lack of a heart for Tyler is what it is. I think it's really at some point is will you take action? Will you fight for these things that need to be done? And, will you fight to have the budget be heavier road maintenance than
parks,
heavier downtown parks, and I love our parks once again, and our parks need to be maintained. They're a responsibility, but at the end of the day, public surface, our streets, our water, and our sewer and our trash, those are the city mandates, and those have to start being run well. And I think at some point, I think that there can be a lack of knowledge and a lack of vision on how to get that done. And so I don't think it has anything to do. I think that I would never say we've been so blessed, regardless of the council person or the mayor, to have people that are genuinely care about Tyler and our.
And do you think maybe that's the reason a lot of these decisions are made? Let's say, I know somebody comments on here, the decision on what did you say, Old Jacksonville or 155?
Old Jacksonville 323
was due to Brookshire's. Is it because those are the local people that are investing that maybe they are trying to, in a way, keep them happy so they can continue to invest back into the city versus pissing somebody off?
Absolutely. And and Brookshire's is, a ridiculous community partner. They employ so many people. They do so much for our community. They do so much for our community. But the reality is at some point, you know, you have to step out there and say, hey, listen, I know, but this really needs to be here.
Right.
And somebody needs to be strong enough to do that. And somebody needs to be strong enough to stand up for, like, I get this may be inconvenient for you at this time, but we need to figure this out because this is important for our city's future.
Is there something you're kind of focusing on, let's say, the first 100 days, if you were to become Tyler's next mayor? Is there something you already envision that you want to kind of start tackling?
Yeah, I mean, back to street roads. So the nice thing, streets and roads. So the nice thing is when you get elected, you get elected in May, and so June, July, and August are really budget months. So your first honest to goodness budget actually goes into effect in October. And so, I mean, there's a couple of heavy months there where you reprioritize where the city's spending their money. And I hear all sorts of complaints about our tax rate and our revenue because we do have a wildly low tax rate. We really do. And that can make it hard for the city to do a lot of things that you see other cities do. And we just don't have the luxury of making some of those decisions or being as generous in some ways just because the money is not there. But the reality is immediately reprioritizing our funds and budget. I think we have more of a spending problem than a revenue problem. And I don't think we need to be asking for more revenue from the citizens and or by increasing fees until we can prove that we have audited every department and that spending is going correctly. So reprioritizing for streets, but then the other thing is just the water bill. The water bill has to be fixed. So we have a crazy water bill structure here in Tyler. And right now, because of the latest rate increase and the fees that have been added, we are all feeling it. What's
the average cost on water here?
I mean, there's so many categories. I think you'd have to,
really,
if you're going to talk about the example the city uses a lot of times is around $100. And I think I can't remember if that's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house or a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. But I haven't seen a water bill that low that people have sent me in quite some time. So our water rate structure as it's set up, and this is outside of the fees, we'll touch on the fees a little bit in a minute. If you read your water bill, there's some real important stuff on there. Trash is on there, sewers on there. It's not just water. And those are important. Those are big. But then you get down into these fees and the fees have to be addressed. The fees have to be clear. The other thing is our water rate has this cascading or waterfall structure. So our water rate is declining based on your usage. So the more you use, the less you pay per 1,000 gallons. And that's the easiest way to kind of explain that. And so, but that gives no thought or value to what our water is as a resource and how much it costs us to get water to you and keep that clean and keep everything working. Most cities in the state, by the state's encouragement, have a flat water rate. And the state does not like our declining water rate. But that's also we're not encouraging efficiencies in that and conservation, right? So that means that our big users are carrying, theoretically less than our small and no users.
Wow.
So those rates have to be flattened. So we have an industrial rate and we have a residential rate. And both of those rates have their own waterfall structure. One of them has 5 steps, one of them has 4 steps. That needs to be down to 1 or 2 steps. And that's going to allow us to lower the rate that our no users and our low users are using. And one of the other things they did in the last couple of years is they took away the free 2,000 gallons. Every residential customer used to get a free 2,000 gallons. So right off the top. And honestly,
when did they take that off?
That doesn't last too long. Within the last 2 years.
Okay.
That 2,000 gallons really doesn't last that long,
right?
In real world, but it's significant. It's all these little changes and tweaks that were made with the additions of the fees, the increases of the rate, taking away the 2,000 gallons, that have just made it to where, I mean, paying your water bill is painful right now for everybody. And people are getting ridiculous water bills. So that has to be flattened. We get to reduce the burden on our low and our minimum users. And one of the things that really bothers me about that, if you let me go on a little bit of a rant here.
Go ahead, it's all yours.
So in our property tax structure, we protect our over 65 population. If you're over 65 and a property owner in Smith County, you can go down and you can ask to have your home's value frozen. Mm-hmm. And so your home's value is frozen at that point, and your taxes do not go up unless you move. If you move, it gets reset to the new rate, you reapply, but it stays flat. So, and this has been a way we've historically protected those in our community who are getting older, on fixed income, are less able to be creative on how they can get extra money to pay a surprise bill. And it's been one of the ways our community has protected those. Well, when the city goes and isn't increasing the property taxes, but is turning around and increasing these fees, nobody's protected from that. So in one hand, we're saying we want to protect you from, a crazy property tax bill, but your water bill, we might double it next month, and it's just one of those deals.
You got to make up somewhere.
Yeah, it's exactly. So, I mean, what that is that is indicative of taxing through fees versus taxing through taxes. And I believe that we should be taxing through taxes. And that is for clarity. It's for transparency, because when you tax through taxes, you have to tell your citizens, hey, we need this extra 1 cent on the tax rate to pay for X, Y, and Z. When you're raising fees, you don't have to tell anybody. You just go raise the fees, and there you go. Have fun with that. And it hasn't really just been in water. I mean, one of the things that really got me off of Hot Center was they came and tried to add fees to housing. And so, and they were doing that through what they call an impact fee. And it was kind of really funny. We had a whole bunch of meetings about it, and the state had already passed laws regulating what could be inside of an impact fee. And what was funny is talking to city staff, we get this list from the state. They're already making developers and builders pay for every single item in there. So then when we went back to him, it's like, so are you trying to charge twice? They're like, no, we just want these things paid for. It's like, well, you're already making them pay for it. So what is this? Is this just going to be an extra fee due to the city? He's like, well, anyway, we got that beat, thankfully. And this was just at the beginning of 2025, but it really opened my eyes to kind of what was going on. And I started talking to people and then hearing about what was going on with the water bills and looking around and realizing, like, hey, this isn't just in housing and construction that they're trying to increase the fees and stuff. They're doing that pretty much in every sector of the city. And that kind of goes back to my statement of before you start trying to scrounge up revenue like that by just raising every fee and squeezing everything you can out of it, you need to be able to prove that you're spending every dime that's coming in right. Like, you can't just go out there and say, we just need to do revenue, but we're not going to cut anything, and we're not checking anybody's billing and not checking anybody's invoice and making sure that they're not buying 2,000 pencils when they only need 10, I mean, it's that minuscule, because our city has over 4,000 charge account codes in our city that they're charging all stuff. And so when I'm asking questions about, is any of that being monitored or audited? It's like, well, no. I mean, when we need a new account, a new charge code, we kind of just make a new charge code. Like,
yeah.
Okay. And that doesn't mean that there's anything, devious going on or anything like that. I mean, that is simply we need to set a standard And we need to be checking that standard, and we need to be helping people understand how they can be efficient in the city.
Now, does the mayor have the authority to audit any department, or how does that process go? If you were to be elected mayor, would you
they have an audit department already.
Will
you be replacing? Do you have to replace people to change?
So we
things?
already have a third-party audit that happens every year.
Okay.
But it's a third-party audit on our accounting. And so it is not a third-party. It's not an audit on spending. It's not an audit on, are you overpaying for this? Okay. It's not an audit like that you might have in your business where you're going through and you're saying, hey, like I'm paying, $100 for a truckload of dirt. Is that market, or am I paying twice, or am I paying half? There's no audit like that going on. There's simply an audit that comes through and goes through all of the bank accounts, goes through all of our statements like the P&Ls and the balance sheets, holds them against the bank accounts, all the retirement accounts and pension accounts that the city controls, and investment accounts, and says, yes, the money that the city's financial program says is there, and it's in the accounts it says it is. And so that's the kind of audit we get.
Okay.
And that's great. I mean, there's, that is a step, right? But the reality is we need to be going through and actually auditing departments against their production too, right? So we have departments. A great example would be transportation, right? So we have transportation. Our transportation, like the buses that go up and down the streets, well, a lot of that has been created for federal funding and or by requirement of the federal government. So as a city gets bigger, the city is required to do things to receive grants and or receive reimbursement on taxes from the federal government. So like when we reached 50,000 people, our city had to have an MPO.
Okay.
And so
what is that?
MPO is a Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Okay.
And that is a group of shareholders. So in our MPO, TxDOT would be a member, NetRMA would be a member, the city of White House would be a member, the city of Bullard would be a member, the city of Lindale would be a member, and the city of Tyler runs that MPO. And once again, it's federally required once we get past 50,000 people.
Okay.
But in that, we have to have a functioning MPO to get funds from the government. But that MPO's job is essentially to try to make all road and transportation projects within Smith County beneficial for each of the shareholders. So the idea is hey, if White House is going to run a street out this direction, and maybe Bullard's thinking about running a road out into this county as well, what are those going to be in the future? And do those things, are those going to be beneficial for the cities, all the cities as they grow in the county? Like, do they coincide with other roads and easements and right-of-ways, and kind of just making sure that those decisions are made kind of with a global mindset as far as the county goes, and not an individual mindset as far as any one shareholder. So
gotcha.
The idea is TxDOT can come in and say, hey, these are all our projects. Do y'all have any projects y'all want to run at the same time? And so the MPO is, it's a great thing, and it's an important thing to have. And so that one's more of an easy one where we can go in and we can say, okay, like, here's what it's doing, here's what it's costing, here's what it's bringing in, and kind of tighten that up. And I think that the things that we're not doing as much as we used to is, when I first got on council, we were kind of tapering off, but we were running what was called the Lean Six Sigma 6 or Lean Six Sigma. I always turn that thing around in my head. Program, which was basically a group of city staffers that were trained, and they would go around and they would do what was essentially an audit in a department. And they would walk in and they would watch how a department functions. One of my favorites was, I think it was the IT department they were auditing, or maybe it wasn't IT. It was somebody in City Hall they were auditing. And as they watched, one of the staffers kept leaving and coming back and leaving and coming back. And they asked him, hey, what's going on here? It's like, well, the printer's downstairs. So I just have to go get the printer. And so, I mean, real quick,
so you
right?
wasted half of the day going to get paper.
It was like, hey, why don't we just put the printer up here?
Right.
And it was like, oh. So, and I mean, that seems silly, but the reality is we all know when you're going into a job that's already existing and a workplace that's functioning in a certain way, we're not necessarily attuned all the time to, hey, it's silly that the water fountain's in the next building and everybody has to take a 5-minute walk to get a drink for the water fountain. And so we were kind of tapering off. But when I first came on, that program, I got to see it working, and I wish we were doing more aggressively. But we were bringing staff members that had identified something and saved the city the taxpayers, right? A large sum of money. We were bringing them to council and celebrating them, right? And making it a big deal. Like, hey,
we did.
Like, but you had your brain on, you saw this happening. And that went down to one of the ladies who was just wildly successful at the time was a lady who was running our water services department. Like, I want to say like the warehouse, right? Kind of where we keep supplies and stuff like that. And she just started monitoring what we were using the most of and how much we waited on it through UPS and FedEx or DHL, whatever it was delivering it. And after a year or so, she had figured out and adjusted all of our inventory. So basically there was nothing sitting and collecting dust on the shelf, but every time our guys came in and had a water line bust here or a meter that went bad there, she had it on the shelf, and she just paid attention long enough. And I think over her time, I think they figured out she had figured out well over $1 million of savings for the taxpayers during her time.
That's awesome.
And it's huge. And I think those are the kind of things that we have to get back focusing on. I mean, I believe we have great employees at the city, but at some point you have to give them the vision and then give them the autonomy to go make these decisions to make our city better. And you don't need to plug it up or be spending all the money somewhere else to where you can't take advantage of ideas that they might come up with.
Okay. Any questions that they might have? That way,
they do have a couple of
15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, we got a couple of questions. Let me go back up to the top. So he says, what's his opinion about firing the budget officer and hiring an analyst? And what are the benefits of doing so? How would we as a community benefit by this?
Yeah, so the city budgeting runs a little different than, say, the county or even the state. So we really don't have a global budget officer per se. What happens is we have a finance director, and I love our finance director. I think he is top notch. That's the reason we go through the audits we do the accounting and financial audits we do with such flying colors. Because as far as making sure the money's where they say it is, those guys are great. But those guys are not the ones in the department spending the money and buying the water pumps and buying the cars and stuff. So each department builds their budget, and then the finance director and the city manager, and I'm not sure who else is doing it right now, but they will go to each department with the key leader over that department, and they'll discuss their budget and kind of go through what they need. But I don't believe, well, I know not enough time is being spent on, did you create efficiencies? Are you looking for efficiencies? And or like, hey, let's look through all of your contracts and make sure you're not overspending or something, or somebody didn't slip somebody in there, and charging us 2 times more than we should for motor oil, right?
Right. Okay. Any other questions that you see, man?
Another one is, are you the type of person that will stand up for the best interest of the residents of Tyler? And I think this is probably separating a little bit between the business aspect of it. I know a lot of the times we get really focused on investments and businesses, and sometimes a lot of these community members feel like they've been forgotten, especially probably those in the north side of town, where there's not that much investment going on, or repairs and streets and other things like that. Is there a way that you can prioritize, or
does it incentivize people? But I think they do incentivize, for example, purchasing a house. There's The city incentivizes that, right?
Well, when I was on council, what we did is we did audit most of our procedures as far as development goes on the north side of town. So we did things like, especially for infill lots and or developments. So where in South Tyler, if you develop on a lot, you're paying for the water meter, you're paying for the tap, you're paying for all those things. Well, if you're in North Tyler and you're going to come in and you're going to develop a lot, the city covers those things.
Okay.
As an incentive to, hey, please come build a house here, develop this infill lot or develop this tract of land into several houses. So
that does help a lot.
And that was a program
really
that we worked on while I was on council in development services. But back to the stand up, I think that go to the square, right? Like, once again, I'm the only guy. I'm on half cent, and they ran all the square money through half cent, and then it went through council. I'm the only guy that voted no against that, and I voted no every time they brought an item up for that. And there's people for sure that aren't happy with me about that, but I just cannot in good conscience vote for an overspend like that. I love the concept of the project. The execution of the project and how much they're spending is ridiculous. And so then another example of just standing up for the community and not a business sense would be the library. Recently, I would say last fall, it came to my attention that in the youth section of the library, which is unmonitored for kids, and the youth section was for ages 13 to 24. It was their definition of youth. There were honestly sexually harmful, very descriptive, horrible books that my 13-year-old daughter, 12-year-old daughter, about to turn 13, could walk in and check out with no warnings on them, no anything like that, right? And I found out that the council had been told for the last 4 years about these books, and they'd been asking the council to pull them, asking the mayor to pull them, and they just kept refusing to do it. And it was kind of like, listen, the idea is not to remove these books from the library. The idea is to put these books in the adult section. And if their parents want to come with them and they want to check those books out, I'm not going to speak into what anybody does in their house.
Right.
But the city purveying books to children underage that they could rent these out and go. And so after a week or two of trying to figure out what to do, I just went and checked the books out. And I was like, why have the city council and mayor not done this? And I've gotten all sorts of flack from them, like, well, that's big government, not small government. I was like, our city was purveying these books and making them available without any restriction or oversight. And that's not okay. And they said, well, parents can come in and restrict their kids' library card. Well, if the city doesn't tell you they're putting this kind of material on the shelves, do you understand the need to go down there and tell them, hey, you need to restrict my kid's library card? That's not a thing. Like, unless they're going to put a big sign on the front of the library and say, hey, be careful. You know, we hid all these books in random shelves that your kid could browse through and read. And you know,
you know what? Funny you say that, because I live in a small town in Troop, and that's being brought up more. There's a active resident that's really, and we always say, man, she's after the library on these books. Right. I did not really know the whole concept of where those books were exactly.
Yeah, well, you can kind of see the history on my website, nextformayor.com. We have a whole library section there. You can see the timeline of what the city was told about when, and all the city council people that were met with and told about it, including everybody else that's running against me, was made aware of this 3 and 4 years ago and did nothing. You can read a list of books in there. We've got a Substack. I mean, I sat down and read through some of these books, and it's appalling what's in there. And to think that my daughter could have just happened on that book.
So you're not saying get rid of the book.
No,
you're just saying put them in a different section where
It's not a
I mean, a
book
lot
for
of the
teenagers.
times, like we go to Barnes & Noble and you go to the kids section and you let them loose, you wouldn't expect as a parent for your 5-6-year-old kid, 12-year-old kid to find these types of books.
Oh, and the Barnes & Noble kids section is way safer than our library was.
Okay.
I mean it. Like, they were doing a way better job of monitoring what is in the Barnes & Noble kids section than they were in monitoring the youth section of the library. And no, I don't.
But then again, labeling youth between, what did you say again?
Yeah, so the youth section is right behind the kids right beside the kids section on the first floor, which is unmonitored. And the youth section, I've got an email on my website. If you want to read through all the emails, there's an email where the head librarian said our youth section is 13 to 24. And that is
13 to 24 is a big
wild.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I love I love that we're youth. We're considered youth now, right? I mean, well, but I mean, yeah, I mean,
that's a big problem in my opinion.
I don't believe in book burning. I'm a freedom of speech guy. Do not remove the books. The books were put in there, but put them in a section where they're monitored and put them in create a policy. And so the city, in response to me taking the books, has made some changes. I will say that. But they've changed no policy. They've made no expectations going forward. So until that happens, I mean, I still have the books and I'm paying the late fees. And until they change their policies in a way that they can't go back, I'm not taking them back.
Right.
And I mean, frankly, that has obviously nothing to do with
When do you do
business.
that? When do you check them out? When do you?
I checked them out in September.
He's got a late fee now.
Yeah. No, it's running.
Yeah. Let me ask a couple questions we asked you yesterday. So what sets you apart from your other the other people running for mayor? What's the biggest difference you think?
Well, I think the biggest difference is, hey, they've had 5 and 6 years to address these issues and make these changes. And it's not like the roads, the water bill, and these issues have not been brought up. And yet, at the same time, nothing has been done to address those. We are going to address those. I will address those. That's why I'm here. I have no other reason to be here. Right. There are better things to do sometimes, but right now, this is what our city needs, right? There's not anything better for me to do right now other than fix this as we go forward. But I think just proven in action from my time before, and then just really, this is what I do, right? I do infrastructure in my everyday job. Like you said earlier, I know what these things cost. I think, all the way down to I know what sets of plans should cost. The set of plans and the engineers pay for this downtown project is $1.5 million for a 298-page set of plans, which is way too many pages for the size of project it is. I can't tell you that. But then,
there's a page to relocate the squirrel, I'm sure, right?
Well, yeah. No, I didn't actually see that. That'd be a good one. But there was a, and I think then going down to even, making sure that we're being proactive. I feel like that every time I turn a corner and something happens with the current council, which has been under the control of these other council people, every response has been reactive and not proactive. And we have got to shift that. We have to have proactive responses. I think a great example would be just access to businesses on the square right now. There's been so many reactive solutions, like the Shorty the Squirrel shuttle. That's an answer to, oops, we didn't plan for this.
And I think those businesses are hurting right
They're
now.
really
on top
hurting.
of the economy and, everything that's going on,
right.
I think the construction down there for a lot of these businesses is really taking a toll on them.
Yep. One business owner the other day posted on Facebook and said she was down 30% since the square work started. And several others, there's at least one restaurateur downtown who's posting almost daily about how it's affecting business. And you definitely see it. And I think that, when you look down there, there's all this care being taken for the bricks that they pulled out of the street, right? And there's all this care being taken to exhume a squirrel whose body they didn't find. And things like that, right?
I don't think the body was ever there.
when they're being proactive, that's the stuff they're being proactive. Yet when it comes over to the business and people's livelihood, the answer is, oops, we'll run a night shuttle and a Shorty the Squirrel golf cart during the day to try to fix the fact that we didn't think as much about the businesses. We thought way more about the bricks than we did the businesses ever. And those are the kind of things.
Are we putting the bricks back?
That's the deal. They're reusing
the
antique
goal.
bricks. Okay. And
Gotcha.
So they better use them if they're spending all this time now, right? They better not come back.
I have a problem with that too. I don't think, well, I know, not I don't think. I know the square would not be in the condition it is if we had made the decision, like all the bricks around the courthouse that the courthouse construction project is putting back are not antique bricks. They're bricks that look exactly like the antique bricks, but they didn't have to go through this whole salvage process. And while I love the sentiment of these historical bricks, and I do love the brick streets, I think, are the important part. And I think that they could have salvaged huge sections of these streets during the construction project with the knowledge at the end, hey, we're just going to replace it with these new bricks that look the same, and we're going to be able to keep access to all these businesses a lot cleaner and a lot longer. Like, those decisions were not considered. The antique bricks were more important than the businesses. And you can see that in the way it's playing out.
And I think that's why it's very important that we have people in this position that are business owners that know how things work. I think, to me, that's a strong belief that a business owner, if you're in office, you should be a business owner to understand how things work. For example, again, it's not a law yet, but the passport thing. Now that you have, you're not going to be able to register your vehicle without with your passport from another country. Really? That hurt businesses. And that decision, if the person that made that decision is a business owner, he's stupid. But I don't think it was a business owner. But that's why we need people in office that understand the impact of those decisions. So, but I have another question for you. That'll be my last question, and then we go back to if people have other questions. For the ones that don't know, what will be your duties and responsibilities?
Yeah, I think somebody was asking in a nutshell, what does a mayor do?
Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah. I mean, that was one of my questions.
So we're interested in this. Cities can be run one of two ways. You can be run mayor strong, or you can be run manager strong. So our city is manager strong, which is how we get away with not paying our mayor and council, because they operate as essentially the board of directors over a company, and their one employee is the city manager, and all other city employees are employees of the city manager. And so your city councilman or your mayor is not able to, jump out of his car on the side of the road and fire a road worker because he's not happy. Like, that's the city manager's job. The city council operates as the board, and essentially the mayor is the CEO and or chairman of the board and the city. And so that's how you function. So the mayor's job and responsibility is a direct spending, lead the budget and say, hey, listen, these are our priorities. And that is one of the big things I think is completely off, is the priorities of our budget. Like, these are our priorities. These are where we're going to increase spending. These are the things that we're going to address and take care of. And that's the important thing. And then the mayor and the council are supposed to set a vision, but essentially represent their citizens anytime that there's anything they need from the city. So it is really, they're not down there to be autonomous. They're down there to be the citizens' voice, right? Like, they're the citizens' representative to the city. And that's what the mayor is. He's for the whole city. He's elected at large across the whole city, so he doesn't necessarily have a single district. So he represents everyone.
Gotcha. Okay. Any questions that they might have?
Yeah, we got some questions, and then I'm going to go back to the issue of the square. Do you think that with the remodel and everything that's being done, do you think that will attract more business and more people to downtown Tyler? You think the growth will be better once maybe? I'm trying to be, the benefit of the doubt, that we're going to go through the struggle of construction right now, but maybe once we're done, will we see a Austin 6th Street downtown Tyler? The younger generation looks forward to more entertainment, more nightclubs, but we do live in a Bible Belt sort of area. So there's a lot of always fighting back and forth. But do you see growth because of the square?
Well, I mean, that's the hope, right? Like the hope would be that out of all of this overspend, out of all of this inconvenience, out of all of this hurt to the existing businesses and stuff, like Lord willing, we do come up with something that is a benefit to the whole community. I've seen the reports and stuff that engineers and visionaries for the square came out and they said stuff like, hey, you spend $1 downtown, that's worth $10 anywhere else in the city as far as economic growth goes. I fundamentally disagree with that. I think there's a lot of ways that money can be spent across the whole town where it benefits the whole community and helps growth. Do I think that it could help the downtown? I absolutely do, and I hope it does. I really do. That would be, I know that's the goal for the people who started the project. And once again, I just think they went about it the wrong way. But I hope it is successful in that vein for sure. Like I hope it does grow the whole city, benefit the whole city. I have no doubt it's going to benefit the downtown. There's no question. If I owned a piece of property and the city came and spent $34 million at my front porch, I sure hope it helped my business too.
Right.
And I understand being all for it if you're downtown, but I'd say in context of the projects we could be doing, in context of what they cost, and in context of what our city needs as far as, citywide and region-wide traffic mitigation and water projects, I think it's misdirected at this time. But I pray that it is a great success for the future of the city as a whole. I have no doubt spending $34 million is going to be beneficial for the downtown area.
Well, I hope there's a return on that investment, right?
I don't see how it could outweigh the cost. But man, if it did, that would be great.
I'm sure
I'm not gonna.
We could always add a fee somewhere.
That's right.
Right.
We can always add a fee and fix that for you.
Sure, there will be.
Any other question before we talk about the fees? I got my statement here.
Yes. So it says right here, how will you connect with residents across all neighborhoods to learn about their needs and priorities?
Yeah. That's a great question. Well, we are planning on doing several town halls in the different areas of the city. And not really, I don't really want the town hall structure per se, but it really is about connecting. But I have been blessed to have friends, coworkers, partners on boards that I've served on and nonprofits around the town. From every area of this city, literally every region. I feel like almost every neighborhood over the years. And the nice thing is just being approachable and being available. Like I've been made aware of many things in neighborhoods that, I might not go to on a regular basis outside of someone calling me and saying, hey, we've got a need here. So I feel like I have a good network and a good ear to the ground already. But this is a big city, and we have over 700 miles of roads in this city. And so it doesn't matter who you are, you're not going to see everything all the time. And so it's very important for people to reach out and tell. And I tell people that all the time, like, hey, listen, I may not have driven down your street in the last month. If something happens, you've got to let me know, right? Like I've got to know if something's wrong, if a city employee did something, or if something happened from a piece of city equipment that maybe nobody knew. Like we've got to know what's going on. And so I think I've always been accessible in that vein. And so that's not going to stop. That's going to continue. But we are going to try to have several events around the city in the next 3 to 4 months and be available to people that if that's how they feel comfortable reaching me. I've never felt like people haven't been able to reach me. I always feel like if they need to, they've gotten a hold of me. That's for sure.
Well, I just feel like there's a lot of communities who just feel like they can't and are just not able to reach out to any of the city, to address a lot of their problems. I think it's not really.
I think they do.
I think it's just lack of knowledge. Lack of somebody, showing some interest in those communities. I mean, I think if you were informed that you have the right, I think sometimes people just don't know that they can call or who to call.
That's why we have this platform so people can understand and they can reach out to you if they have questions.
Absolutely. I mean, you can go to my website right now, but the reality is once I get elected, like the city email, like I read those when I was on council. Everyone that came to me, that came to me through my city council email. So the reach out, it does not fall on deaf ears at the city. And what's funny is because our city council emails, this is during the time I was on, I don't know about right now, but during the time I was on, when emails would come in, especially when they were complaints, it was funny because city staff would also see that. That goes through the email server at the city. And a lot of times they would try to hop on it so that we didn't get to it before they did. So a lot of times just speaking up, like you don't even have to. Like
it's going to make a difference.
It's surprising how much. And really on the whole, I want to say that our city staff and our city employees, like they desire to be helpful and effective because that's their job. So, I mean, if you reach out and speak up and say, hey, I noticed this, you're giving someone the opportunity to do their job, to make your life better and our community better. And a lot of times they want to do that immediately. Like I said, there were many times I would go to address an issue, and because they knew it was coming, and they went and fixed it before I got to them. And so you can make a difference just by reaching out. And I hope that you begin to feel, if you don't, that this is a community you can reach out in. It definitely was for me when I first got started here and moved here.
All right, so Leah, let me try to go real quick through these. So does he agree that this monitoring, I think this is going back to the library issue, does he agree that this monitoring is the responsibility of the parents and not the city government?
I believe if it's about the books, I believe any and all monitoring is the responsibility of the parents, but I also believe it's the responsibility of the city to not make things available without the parents' knowledge, especially books that are sexually harmful and can harm just the minds of underage kids. Like I was exposed at a very young age to pornography, and that's something that caused a struggle for me for years. I think it was 9 or 10, someone showed me a magazine, and it was a struggle that I had in my faith. And so I'm not speaking about this as a greater than or better than anyone. This is a reality of the world we're living in currently, that I believe there are things out there that are produced to harm children. And if they're put in places without parents' knowledge, or like if you didn't know you need to protect your kid from the City of Tyler Public Library youth section, why would you know that you need to be monitoring that as closely? Like that should be a safe place. But once again, just moving the books makes it to where if that's something you're wanting to introduce to your kid to have a talk, or however that is, if it's something that you feel important, I think you have the right. I think every family does. I do not think that it is something that we purvey as a representative of the taxpayers and the citizens, especially without making the parents aware that we're doing that, which is what was happening.
Right. Someone says over here, the Bible has some horrible things in it. Is it available at the library? And I'm sure this is...
Yeah, I'm sure it is. There's some wild stories of what happened in history in the Bible, for sure. And once again, I think the difference in that statement in particular was we know that about the Bible at this point. Did you know that about the shelves of the youth section in the public library?
I was not aware of it until it was a big deal last year.
And
it's crazy.
That's really
that makes no sense.
Right. That I don't disagree about the stories in the Bible. I'm saying literally.
Yeah, some of them are wow.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's life. It is what it is.
It is part of history. What's your view and opinion on revitalizing North Tyler and making it safe for pedestrians?
Yeah. Well, one of the projects I pushed while I was on city council was the upgrade of MLK. We did all the way across it with the sidewalks and the pedestrian walkways, and that was a great project. And those just continue to need to happen. And the nice thing is every time we're reconstructing a road in the city of Tyler, that is happening. The reality is the pedestrian safety issue is not just a North Tyler issue. It's not just a South Tyler or West or East Tyler issue. That is a issue citywide. We have a city that was not developed with pedestrians in mind for the last, 100 or so years. Right. And that is something that we have changed and that is changing. But the reality is there is almost no way to address that globally right away. Like that is a stepped process. One thing I will say that North Tyler has is we continually get what's called a CBD grant, Community Block Development Foundation grant from the federal government. And those can only be used in certain segments of any city, depending on income and size of house, value of the property and everything. So that's money continually flowing into the city that when I was on council was wholly used or almost wholly used for sidewalks on the north side of Tyler. None of it could go into the south side of Tyler based on, those demographic traits that the federal government put on it. But it was money that was continually flowing in for sidewalks in North Tyler and some west and some east, but definitely never made it into South Tyler as far as those funds did. But the city is continuing to do projects citywide for accessibility. I know half-cent sales tax that I serve on, we had a project that came through just a couple months ago where they were starting to, we have inventory of intersections all over the city that need to have pedestrian crosswalks and ramps put in, and those are being worked on, and they'll continue to be. But once again, as we spend more money on streets and as we're reconstructing streets faster, those things get taken care of in reconstruction because that's how we're building roads now in our city.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. It says, it's true. I emailed our reps about my water bill and someone call me back. Let's see. Barnes & Noble is staffed well to vet the books. Is the library staff for each book to be read by staff to market according to the community values, or how is that done? Do you know?
I have heard how it is done. And I don't believe that's happening. So the way a lot of that is happening is when the books are coming in, they are pre-graded by the ALA, the American Libraries Association, which I believe is part of the issue of why those books were in the youth section. And it states, hey, these books are this great reading level, this maturity level. The problem with that structure, nobody locally is reading every book and deciding that, which is probably what needs to happen, especially as far as our community standards go and how we expect our children to be treated here. But supposedly that is happening somewhere, a council person told me. Obviously, it is not sufficient because of what just happened. But that is wrong from a standpoint that, once again, at my webpage, if you want to go through all those emails, we have emails from people that sold books to the ALA, big publishing houses, and said, hey, all these books are for kids, and sent them. And then I have follow-up emails from the publisher to the ALA saying, whoa. We actually read those books. Those need to be in the adult section. And some of those were books I found in the youth section, right? So there's this problem where these things to sell books will go out on these big, whatever you want to call them, a tranche or whatever it is, this huge group of books that they sell in this group that they say everyone was read and everyone was vetted and down. They immediately say this happened, but then 2 or 3 months later, you can find these emails from the publisher that say, oh, well, not that one and not that one. The reality is because of that disconnect, like that doesn't mean that those emails are getting all the way down to each individual librarian. And so they may, even if they have the intention of monitoring it that well, they don't even know, because if the ALA told them it was okay and then it came down, and when the publisher said it wasn't, did the ALA do as good a job making sure that all the librarians knew? And that's an obvious no, as we can see from the emails that I've read in between ALA and our library.
Right, and that's what they're saying. That's the problem all libraries have, including school publishers, say one thing, but it's not always true.
Well, and to that point, I do want to make a statement. So about our ISD, well, I'm going to specifically call out Tyler ISD. So Tyler ISD, and this is a positive thing when I say call out. So this is a kudos, not a call them out. But so the same time the city council was told about these books in the library, the superintendent of Tyler ISD was told. And the superintendent went and read those books and removed them. So we're talking about books that are not allowed in our school libraries on the shelves of the youth section, our library, with our city council and mayor not doing anything about it, right? And so since then, a law has been passed, and TISD took these books off the shelf way before the law was passed, because those are our community standards. But a law has since been passed at the state to say those books cannot be in any school libraries. And they've tried to get it passed to say they can't be in the youth section too, and it failed by a couple votes this last year. It should pass this next year, but it's one of those deals like, hey, like, this is how bad it is, right? Like, they can't be in our schools. Our children can't have access to it. And, you know, once again, you as a parent, would you expect you need to protect your kid from your middle school library, which is what was happening until these got brought up. But the kudos to Tyler ISD is Dr. Marty Crawford, who's went and dealt with it immediately. And that's the response we need when citizens bring up problems in the community, because I don't think anybody knew this was going on at city council until somebody brought it to their attention. But then action needs to be taken. And that's not just about the library. That's about your water bills. That's about your street. That's about the quality of your water. That's about your sewer.
Let's talk about the water bill before we let you go, because I did say it was an hour, and I think we went over.
Yeah, we're a little over, but we're good.
I don't want to take a lot of your time.
All right, yeah.
But so the water bill, I'm looking at it is the water, sanitary, sewer, fee, another fee. Do you know about the fees? Do you understand the fees? Are you aware of what are the fees?
Yeah. So I don't have everything in front of, I've got lists of things. So here's funny. About 5 months ago, I had one of my assistants go and said, hey, go look at the fees on the water bill, and I want you to come back and tell me how they're calculated. And she brought back this stack of paper and was just like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. She's like, I don't understand how half of these things are calculated or where it's going. And we kind of went through it. And what it really comes down to is there are quite a few fees on there that normally would be taken care of in the general budget. But once again, because of our low tax rate, there are things they're shifting over to putting on the water bill. And some of those, for better or worse, there are some legitimate ones in there. I disagree with the rates on even most of the ones that are legitimate. But I think is there a compliance fee?
There's a compliance fee, water quality fee, water service fee, water hauler franchise fee, water franchise fee, sales tax. I mean, that one makes it. Storm water surcharge fee.
So yeah, so franchise fee is a funny one. So that's a franchise fee. The city of Tyler Water Department is getting paid, or is paying the city of Tyler, who owns the franchise right-of-ways that are beside your roads. So I'm going to go ahead and say there's a couple things on there that are out of one pocket into another, but charging you. I don't know why there's things like that going on where we're paying a franchise fee to ourselves, but we're charging our citizens for it. If the community owns the right-of-way and owns the franchise, why are we paying a franchise fee, and especially at that rate, right?
Right. Do you know what the automated CHP? What is that? SW is the last one. I don't know what that is. SW automated
CHP.
Because that's the biggest. That's the biggest charge.
It has
because we have the water at the top and then sanitary sewer.
I don't remember what the CHP stands. Solid waste automated. Let's see. Is your waste hauler franchise fee is solid waste?
Will it be the trash?
That's got to be solid waste.
Okay, cool.
So that's your trash.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just wanted to double check and make sure. If I don't get it, more
water quality fee. So your compliance fee is actually an interesting one. If I do need to.
So who is compliant or what?
So that's 25% of the bill. Okay, that's a big one.
This is actually wild. Okay. So this is funny. So I'm going to tell you a little story. So imagine you run for office as a city council person. You get elected. And the first week you're elected, the mayor and the city manager bring you in and close the door in an office and say, oh, by the way, we're being sued by the EPA. And all the council people and the mayor are in this suit, and it's been going on for years, and we're not telling anybody about it. Mainly because we're in a suit, because you don't talk about
details of lawsuit. Right.
That's not. I'm not saying we're not telling anybody about it to be secretive. I'm telling about it like you don't talk about a lawsuit when you're in a lawsuit.
Right.
And so that was a surprise. That happened to me. So my first week as a council person, they came in, oh yeah, by the way, the whole city's being sued by the EPA. And what it was it was a systematic thing. The EPA was suing every city in the nation, and it started with the biggest ones and were working their way down, and it was our turn. And that's what it is essentially. And it was a consent decree. Well, it resulted in a consent decree. The suit was around was about around our sewer system. So over 47% of our sewer system is over 50 years old, and at the time I think it was more than that. And what the EPA came in and said, you're not doing enough job. And then, once again, they were saying this to every city, right? Like, so this isn't like Tyler, Texas. They were going to every city. You're not doing a good enough job of inventorying your sewer line or monitoring your sewer lines. And so what they did is they sued us to get us to sign what is called a consent decree. And it was us agreeing that over the next 15 years, we would spend, at the time, it was estimated to be about $75 to $79 million when we signed it, because I was there when we signed it. We're north of $250 million at this point. I think we're north of 280, but I'm safe saying we're north of 250. And what it was, it's not everything in it was bad. I mean, there was good things. We were supposed to find and inventory every manhole, make sure they weren't leaking. That's good. That should be getting done. We were supposed to camera every sewer line in the entire city and make sure there weren't breaks. It wasn't leaking. That's all positive. The uncomfortable part about it was like, yeah, and while you're doing this, you're paying for third-party monitoring and all these extra reports that need to go to the federal government to prove that you're doing it. And that's been millions and millions and millions of added dollars just in the red tape that the federal government put on us. And the federal government saying we had to do it on their schedule. We couldn't do it on our schedule. So that is the bad part of the consent decree. But because of the consent decree, we're in a lot of debt in the water department. So we have no general obligation debt at the city, which everybody loves to say, but we are in debt at the city, and it is all in the water department. So that fee, the compliance fee, is actually paying interest on the debt for this consent decree for the sewer system.
Something we had to comply with. That's
something we were told to comply with. They pulled out, yeah. So it's a compliance fee because it was compliance that was forced on us. Once again, the work that was done, it needed to be done. I mean, we found tons of manholes in this city that we didn't know existed. And I mean, there's stormwater. There's a stormwater system around the corner from where we're doing this podcast that's from the 1880s underneath the street, right? So, I mean, there is old infrastructure in this city. So there's positive things to that work being done. That work needed to be done. It being on a schedule that was forced, us not being able to make decisions about it, like us just having to take out the debt to make sure it happened on the schedule so that we don't get in more trouble with the federal government. That's uncomfortable. And
are we or were we investing also in this building that was fallen? Was that something that the city was going to invest in, this old hotel? Or
no.
Okay.
It was nothing the city. At one time, the county owned it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so at one time, the county owned it, and then they sold it to a private party who told the county, we're going to run in there, we're going to fix everything, it's going to be the best thing you ever did, is selling us this building. The county didn't need to own it. And so that was done, and of course that never happened. And so I think we may be on developer number 2. And I don't think it's ill will or anything. It's a pretty non-functional structure.
Right.
Sorry, I got a couple of questions I know, and we got to roll. If elected mayor, what are 3 projects you have listed as a priority to work on?
Well, I mean, water bills is number 1. The other thing is we need to bulletproof our water facilities, right? Our water treatment plants. Like at the end of 2025, we had a water plant that was down for, I think, over 10 or 15 days. Like that should be happening. And it was essentially mechanical issue. And yes, I mean, there's so many things you can point to, like parts for that stuff's expensive, all this stuff. But the reality is during Snowmageddon, our pumps went down too, right? So those water systems have to be bulletproof. Like we're a city of over 100,000 when we're sleeping, and we're a city of well north of 250,000 when we're awake. Mm-hmm. So bulletproofing our water, taking care of our water bills, and then funding street maintenance, right? Like that. Those are my first 3 projects. They have to be done. You're going to be able to see that I'm doing them real quick because we've got a budget that'll be upon us. But we'll also be publishing how we're getting on progress and that those things are happening.
Cool. All right, as a mayor, how much power or say on how things are handled in the city will you have?
Well, there are 7 votes on city council. So my goal, once I get in there, I guess this is project number 4 or project number A.1 or something like that, is making sure that the rest of the council agrees on the direction and the vision for making our city more efficient and making sure that we're handling the spending before we're trying to raise revenue through fees and or increasing taxes. But that is really the power and the sway you have. And the mayor has a lot. The mayor controls the city council agenda completely. And so that's a pretty powerful tool. But then other than that, I mean, it is the mayor's job to create consensus, not just in the council, but to know what the city citizens want him to do.
Okay. One last question. What plans do you have to help unify and create less tension in our community? As a future mayor, what vision do you have for the Latino community?
Well, obviously I'm in construction, so the Latino community
you know a little bit about that.
is a incredibly large part of my world. And because of that, I mean, any little thing happens, you better believe I hear about it. I think that there's some amazing things. Like even right now, there is a council seat open in a district that has a huge Latino population. And I think at some point, I really want to see our Latino Hispanic community get out and be electing. I mean, we need to have that voice. District 4.
District 4? Who's running for that?
Clint Childs is running right now, and unopposed, I believe. And Clint's a great guy. He really is. But I would say that when people ask me, especially from the Hispanic Latino community, and say, hey, you know, we want to have a voice, I'm like, man, you can. Like, y'all need to have, if you had a business leader run and with a vision and heart for the community, I fully believe they could have a seat on the city council, and I think that needs to happen. I think it needs to happen sooner than later. Filing is still open for 3 weeks. And so
you still have a chance to run?
You still have a chance. Filing closes on February the 13th.
So how many city councils do we have?
So we have 6 districts.
6 districts?
So, and it's kind of fanned throughout the city. And honestly, that's one of the great things when you talk about how are we going to unify this city. That is the reason we have 6 districts. We have 6 districts that came out of, I think it was 60 years ago or so, our community did not have districts. And there was even a time, I think 4 of the council seats, I know 3, I think 4 of the council seats all lived on the same street in the same neighborhood.
Wow.
And obviously there was no voice and there was no opportunity for the whole community to be heard there. You had a majority vote of the city living on one street in the same neighborhood. You know, what difference of opinion or views is there?
Right.
And so that's what bore the system we now have, which is this fan shape of the city. And yes, there are some weird lines in there that, you know, have probably some weird reasons of them in history why they're drawn the way they are. But the reality is District 4 for sure has an incredibly large Hispanic and Latino community in it. You know, Eleno, Lucia, there's a lot of overlap in between that ISD district and seat number 4. So, but I think that at some point that needs to happen. We definitely have voices from North and West Tyler that have made themselves heard in that way. And I think that's an important way. I think representation is important at the end of the day. And I think that, but that takes work from the community. That takes community involvement. Right. And that's a decision that you got to put somebody up that you can elect, then you got to support them and you got to vote for them. Right. But that's all it takes. I mean, and honestly, we have a city, and I can speak because I've only been here 26 years, which means I'll never be a local. But this city, when you speak up and you go say, hey, I want to have a part and I want to help and I want to have an opinion and let my voice be heard. I have rarely ever met with anything but encouragement in this city. I do the same. And I think that regardless of the community you're from or the ethnicity you are, I think our city is open to that. And I know they're open to young people in that vein, but I think that at all parts of this community, I think people want all parts of this community to be heard. But once again, you've got to stand up and make a statement and let people know, and then, you know, actually get to the polls and vote. City elections are wildly undervoted.
Right.
So, I mean, on a given day, I mean, there may only be, now our election should have a decent number because there's 4 people running, but on a normal day, an 8 to 9,000 person turnout for the entire city election is a huge turnout. So, I mean, a small number of votes, especially when an election like mine is split 4 ways, like that could come down to less than 10 votes.
Right.
It's wild.
And we've seen that before. We've talked about how, you know, elections are decided by 400 people, you know, when there's over 100,000 people in Tyler, right? So it's important to get out and vote.
Yep. And in this election, more than most.
I agree.
So are you still a Grace community member?
I'm a Grace community member. I've been there, well, for about 25 years. And I met my wife.
Did you move here, I guess?
I met my wife there, and that's where we still go to church.
I have good friends over at Grace.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had our Grace Espanol campus has just exploded, and that's a lot of fun.
We like having babies. Well, some people.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to have
I didn't mean necessarily exploding that way, but that's so.
Yeah. Got a good old friend, Melissa Rosso, if you happen to know Melissa.
Okay,
yeah.
I think I met her. Yeah.
Well, again, I have to clarify, we're not endorsing John today. This is not a paid interview. For all those that later on reach out, you are welcome to come on here. Just like
and we actually reach
here.
out to most of them. They just don't want to make the time. They're busy with other projects, and it's okay. They're busy out there.
Yeah. But we give everyone the same opportunity on this platform. So here's your chance for your political campaign to tell people why they need to vote for mayor versus anyone else.
Absolutely.
This is all on you.
This is all on me. Well, first of all, I want to start with I would ask for your vote. Like, I don't want you to think I don't want your vote. I want your vote. And please go vote regardless. Go vote in the city election. It's May 2nd. It's a Saturday. People hate voting in that election. Please get out regardless.
May 2nd.
And do it. Middle of April is early voting, middle to end of April. You need to vote for me because I am proactive. My priorities are our city's priorities. They're about infrastructure. They're about your streets. They're about your traffic. It's about the quality of your water and how much you're being charged to exist in your own city. And we will be proactive on addressing those things. And we will make sure that you as a citizen can confidently say, my city is running as efficiently as it possibly can. And I'm proud of that. And that's what we're going to do.
All right. Where can they find more information about you, John?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook at Nix for Mayor or John Nix for Mayor. And then you can find me online at thrivetyler.com. That links to my main page, but it also, if you go to thrivetyler.com, it takes you right to my platform. And then you can kind of explore. You can read about the library, and then we're putting videos on Facebook almost weekly now, interview videos where I talk about different items, but then you can also see, like I said, our information on water bills, the library, what's going on there, and different items. So please reach out to us there. Reaching out to us at Thrive for Tyler, we have a contact form on there, and you can get us there.
Sounds good. Eric, you got any other
No,
questions?
no. I'll just thank you. I'll add
Thank y'all for having me.
And for if you guys know the other candidates and they care to come, everybody's welcome. I did reach out to two of them because Miss Marsh, she told me, Miss Shonda, she's like, hey, you should have them on, and I reach out, but they haven't made the time for it, and it's okay. They're busy with other projects. But thank you for making time for us.
It's my pleasure, and it's an
you
honor.
You were on the radio,
me.
and now you're here. So once again, thank you for your time. I know you're busy, and once again, I hope we can talk. Once if you get elected, well, even if you're not,
when I get elected, I'll come back and we'll
come
talk.
back either to hold those people accountable. But if you win, we would love to have you again as well.
Absolutely.
To tell us what you're gonna do the next. Obviously,
Keep us updated as you move on and accomplish them.
Well,
and Eleno did that. Eleno came before he got elected.
Yeah.
And then after, and he came again after.
He's been here a few times.
So that's awesome. That's what we want. We want to give the community the right information,
Absolutely.
and then you guys that are gonna really work for the community or the city. What are you doing? And I'm glad, like Eleno, that he's coming back.
Yep.
He's not hiding like a lot of them, okay? So they're not getting anything done, and they go hide. So that's awesome. And I hope I can have you again in the next few months, okay?
I'd love
Good
to.
luck.
Love to. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for just allowing me to speak. I really am.
All right. Thank you, John. Good meeting you.
The views and opinions expressed on El Show de Meño podcast and its associated digital platforms are solely those of the host and guests, and do not necessarily reflect the views, policies, or positions of any radio station, employer, sponsors, advertisers, or affiliated organizations. This content is independently produced and is not part of any on-air broadcast programming.